everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bo Knows Business podcast. My name is Nicole Kober. I am the president of an amazing organization called the Bo Collective. That is the Black Owner and Women's Collective. We have brought together some amazing women who have grown their businesses over $1 million in gross annual sales every year. They are dynamic and they're here to tell their stories. And we're just so delighted to have you today. So today, one of my favorite people, and you guys are going to be like, Nicole, you're so fake. That's not true. I have a lot of great people in my life, and Latoya Graham is absolutely one of them. I can't wait for you to meet her. She is Latoya Graham of Graham Technologies. Hello, my friend.
Hey, Nick.
How are you doing, girl?
I'm doing well, and it's always so great to see your face.
You too, honey. Listen, like I said, this is out of everything I do, having these few minutes with my friends to hear about your stories is the highlight of my day. I really just think you all are breathtaking women, and you're so humble, you're so gracious, and you really are one of my favorite people. You just, it
Thank
just
you.
always bring calm, cool, and sexy into the room, girl, and it just
I'll
changes the atmosphere in a room.
try. Well, thank you, Nick. I'll try.
You do it, girl. So you know how the story goes. We are into season 2 of Bo Knows Business. And I am just delighted that our audience is going to be able to hear your story personally. We're going to do your Michelle Obama story. We're going to do that first chapter, second chapter, and take us all the way up to today. So first, give us a little bit about little Latoya. Like, who were you as a little girl? What was your family like? Where were you raised? Give us a little background about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, Nick. I grew up in a small town, King George, Virginia. So I'm a country girl by heart. I always say I was a country girl with big city dreams.
Mhm.
But I really had a very traditional, classic childhood. Um, Life was really simple. I had my parents who were working parents. They were amazing. You know, my father, he had a good government job on the naval base. The naval base was like the major employer, you know, in a small town that I grew up in. And my mom was the office manager. And so we had a very, very close knit family. Um, both sides of my family were extremely close, very nurturing. We had a lot of fun together. Um, you know, we a lot of traditions. You know, we every Sunday we went to church. You know, and I went to a little Southern Baptist church, so church was a whole day, a whole day vibe. And after church, my grandmother, my dad's mother, she would cook the same fried chicken meal every Sunday, and all of my family would come over. And on my mom's side, my mom had she has 8 siblings, and so her family was a little bit larger. So I had a ton of cousins on that side of the family. And, you know, I spent many summers at my mom's parents' house playing with my cousins and just really enjoying life. I started working when, you know, I was 14 years old
Hmm.
at the local grocery store. So, you know, I was
Was
pretty much
that you? Did you initiate that, or did your parents encourage that, or suggest that rather?
it was a combination of both. You
Mhm.
know, I always wanted to make my own money and I was really independent. And so, you know, after I got my first job, you know, that was sort of like the beginning of me being financially, you know, independent. And of course, my parents supplemented.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I, you know, in the small town that I grew up in, I went to school with the same kids from elementary all the way through high school. And so even to this day, I'm so blessed that my some of my best friends are still my childhood friends.
Mhm.
So, you know, that was sort of my foundation. My house was the fun house. You know, all the kids would come over in the neighborhood and play kickball and t-ball, and my brother and his friends would come over and play football. So, it was pretty traditional. I didn't really grow up or witness a lot of entrepreneurship. I just didn't see that. My parents instilled education. Not going to college was not an option. Um, the expectation was really, get your degree, get a good career, and make good money. And so I subscribed to that. And so that was pretty much my childhood, and that was really the foundation of who I am. And I'm a really family oriented person, and that's really important to me.
Oh no, I love that. Thank you. I envisioned it, the kickball girl, the
Oh yeah,
kickball. Oh, I
my
love
mom's lawn was just completely destroyed.
decimated by the babies. I love it. I love it. So okay, let's fast forward to your first career. But where did you go to school? If you went to school, where did you go to college? And then what did that, your young professional life look
Mhm.
like?
So I attended George Mason University, and right before I entered school, money was never really, a major factor growing up. We were pretty comfortable. My parents, they made sure we never went without. And it really wasn't until going into my first year of college that I felt any type of financial impact, because as soon as I was going into my freshman year, my mom was laid off.
Mm,
And so that was the first time that, I really felt any type of impact, because I'd always been independent, made my own money. And then, I realized that really motivated me. I knew I had to be successful because my parents were so great, sacrificed so much for us, that I knew I always wanted to take care of them.
mm.
So going into George Mason, I majored in conflict resolution and peace studies. And
Oh
so
my God.
I
That
know.
is so, it explains everything.
So me, right?
Explains everything about you. I love it.
And so,
Girl, listen, we gonna get you on the circuit, girl, because you resolve all kinds
I
of
do, I
conflict
do, I
in our
do.
social circles.
So during my senior year of college, I interned as a counselor at a youth shelter, and so I was convinced at that moment that that was my life's purpose, was to, give back and help, at risk youth. And so upon graduation, my very first job was actually as a counselor at Fairfax County Juvenile Detention Center. Most people do
Really?
not know that.
Oh my God.
But that is where I kicked off my career. And so it was one of those things. I was 22, I was
Mhm.
young. And at the time, I didn't realize how draining that job could be. And that was well before the time of mental health awareness. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was rewarding and draining at the same time. I love the success stories when I was able to help, a kid. And then on the flip side, you would see the repeat offenders and the same kids coming back into the detention center. And so I wasn't quite sure if I was ready for it. And, I was making 28K. My best friend, who was an accountant, she was making like well over 40. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. The math isn't mathing. I'm not
Right.
quite sure if I'm going to be as successful as I imagined. So I did pivot, and so I started my journey into human resources. And
Mhm.
so that's really where it all started for me. My very first job was at Lockheed Martin as an HR administrative assistant.
Uh-huh.
And from there, I worked at a major, international law firm downtown. And then finally, I ended up at a small defense consulting firm. And that's when I really kind of, went, you know, into my HR career.
Mhm.
And so that I was an HR professional, kind of worked my way to HR manager. And ironically, my goal was to become a vice president of human resources
Look at that.
at a corporate company. And nonetheless, that's my role here at Graham
That's
Technologies. So,
that's exactly right. So I coach small businesses, and when I'm talking to people that want to leap from, their 9 to 5 to being an entrepreneur, I have tracked mentally and haven't done any big studies, but I look at some of the best entrepreneurs are those who have come from either a government agency or a large defense contractor,
mhm,
and then they flip and they make those businesses their first client. Um, I'm curious to know how Graham Technologies got started. And I know a little bit of background,
mhm.
but I want you to share with the audience. Number one, was that your experience, or because you are a government contractor, very successful, and I just wondered, was that a part of your startup story?
Well, it certainly played a part. And so, a few years after college and after working, I got married. And so, my husband, William Graham, he and I were, by all measure, we're a very successful company. We made great money together. We had zero debt. And, again, I was on my track to, work my way up in human resources. And he was a software developer, and he worked at all the major, contracting firms. And it wasn't really until he was working at Booz Allen that he sort of had this aha moment. And he came home one day and he said, babe, we can really do this. I think we can start a business. So I kind of looked at him, but I didn't doubt it. I completely supported his vision. And neither one of us had any business acumen. So we didn't really know how we were going to do it. But the fortunate thing was, like you mentioned, because I did have a background in human resources and worked in defense firms, and same with him, he had a technical skill. So we were able to really launch the business by contracting William out. So he, our very first contract, which was like a day after the birth of my daughter, in 2007, was him contracting himself out. And so that's where it all started. So we really combined forces, with his experience and my experience. He was, at the client site where I was in the office trying to, build the infrastructure. And so that's where it started. And 15 years later, we're still here.
Well, I love that story, and I want to talk about the strengths and maybe some of the challenges
Mhm.
that go along with being a partner with your partner. I that is my background as well. Um, and I just wanted to know what your thoughts were. Share with our audience, how what are some of the biggest assets that you have that way, and then what are some of the challenges, but how do you resolve them? I always want to end on a positive.
Right. Because we were sort of walking into this blind, like I said, we really didn't know what we were doing at first. So we had to kind of pull from, our experiences. And as you said, working with your spouse, it definitely takes two unique individuals to make that happen, because you know, um, we're together all the time,
Mhm.
24 hours a day. We have an office. I always say we have to add some layers and some filters. His office is
Mhm.
at one end and mine is at the other. But it's really about partnership and trust. And so we made that commitment once we said we were going to start this business. We had to go 100% in. And so um, communication is key. We do share the same values. We have the same background as far as, growing up in close knit families. And we really went in with the intent of we want to create a legacy for our children. So let's work hard, let's grind, let's put together our ideas, recruit a team of people who support our vision. And this was all a process.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly, we've had the ups and downs of the business. We've experienced some financial difficulties. The the good side is that, early on when we were married, when we sold our very first townhome, I went to real estate school just so that I could become a realtor. So I can, pocket all the commissions. So when we sold our first home, that did give us a little leverage because we had some capital. And then because we were able to, mitigate a few risks, we were able to, build William out. Um, so the challenges certainly came as we started to grow. And, I was trying to put together all the policies. We wanted our company to be like a smaller version, right, of a big, large contracting company.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I have my HR hat on. He's like, take your hat off. Let's talk about the bottom line. And I'm like, well, I do want to, let's talk about the bottom line, but we have to make sure that we're in compliance. So, I had to make sure that, along the way that, we were, doing everything in compliance with state and federal laws and, just kind of building out the culture that I envisioned that I wanted the company to become. And so, when we did have those downtimes, where as the company grew, it was very difficult, getting access to capital in the beginning. And luckily, we had an amazing mentor who really helped us to understand and read financials. And, he helped us to attain our 8A certification. And then from there, he was very instrumental in helping us get our first line of credit. And it was a small line, but as we continue to grow, it's like, oh my gosh, we have to make payroll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cashing out my 401k. He's cashing out his 401k. And when finances become a play, that's when, partnership, that's when it gets a little rough. And business, certainly overlaps into the home life. Um, we don't know how to cut it off, but I think I'm better at providing that balance in
Mm-hmm.
the relationship, because it could certainly impact family time. Both of our kids have grown up, around entrepreneurs, and they know that we're all about the business, and we're talking about business on vacation. We're on our laptops in the plane. So it is important that we try to be intentional when we just have that moment where we cut it off. And
Mm-hmm.
because we do, we work hard, we like to play hard. And so, we try to make sure that we, cut it off, have a date night, travel, because really, our philosophy is that, it doesn't really make sense to work this hard if we're not going to live in the moment and enjoy the rewards of our hard work. So we have managed to work through that. Um, I'm always like, we're professional in the office. A couple of
Mm-hmm.
employees may have witnessed a few disagreements, but for the most part, because the trust is there, we communicate.
Mm-hmm.
We've been able to really make this happen and be successful at it.
I love it. I love it. So I want to go back because now I want to focus on your business and how you've scaled it. And you mentioned the 8A program. I know that that is a big vehicle for a lot of small businesses to do work with the government and be sole source rather. Tell me what that scaling process look like specifically. With your human resources background, I'm sure that that was a big asset. But I know some people, they're like, I want to be $1 million company. I want to, grow, but they don't have that process in place for in anticipation of that growth.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can explain through a story of your experience how how you manage that growth going from billing him out to a team of hundreds, or maybe not hundreds yet, but
Not quite there yet, but
but you really did scale to now you're an 8A graduate. What
yes.
were some of the, how did you take your company from that one person to where you are now?
Sure. I mean, it was certainly a process. And so, as we continue to grow, we had to invest in infrastructure because while, I was the company's FSO, the accountant, the contract specialist. William was more, on the client delivery, on the business side. And, we couldn't do it all alone. And so we had to really go out and recruit a team of individuals who could help us get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so our first investment was, trying to find the right person who could, who had a background in business development so that we can make those connections and, go after new work. And we had to hire a proposal writer and things of that nature. So building a team of people
Mhm.
who supported our vision
Well,
was
I heard, I'm putting my audience hat on.
okay.
So your first team hires where you did a business development to build your pipeline,
Mhm.
a proposal writer to then be able to respond to those. That's excellent. What was your next team member that you feel was critical to your scaling?
So we did a combination. We outsourced some services as well because um, we were still growing and we weren't quite able to make that commitment to employment, but we outsourced accounting services. So it's really important that you have a CFO who certainly understands accounting that can help you budget, plan, forecast. And so that was really critical in helping us and manage the business. And then, of course, I built up my human resources team with the recruiter. So I couldn't do it all, but we definitely had to have a recruiter on board because as we were growing, we had to meet, contract requirements with hiring a certain number of people. So it was a process. It definitely wasn't something that happened overnight. But as we, graduated from 8A, you also have to strategize and come up with a different approach to business because what worked when we were 8A
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily work when you graduate because now we're competing with everyone. And so
Mhm.
you do have to make very difficult decisions. We had to change up our leadership style. We had to, bring in new people, especially on the business development side. So you do have to make difficult decisions, but, you have to make decisions that are going to benefit the company. And so, we've gone through those stages. And so, yeah, it's been a process, but I think we're in a good place right now.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Ah, I'm so happy. And I know that you share so many nuggets with our audience about how to scale. So thank you for that. We just have a couple more minutes. I can't stand how fast time goes by. I'm like 23 minutes already. But I want to now leave as we always do with the Bow Collective, and I had the pleasure to listen to you talk about your business just earlier this week in
Mhm.
our Big Bow meeting, and I cannot tell you how enriching it was to know that we have this team, this built-in kind of business development team across all sectors. That when we hear what one of our IT businesses does, I could just see the pings, ping, ping, ping. Oh, I can. Let me call her about this, and maybe we can team on that. And
Mhm.
I just thought that it was wonderful. So I want to just have you talk about what the Bow Collective means to you, and how do you believe that what we are trying to put together will impact Black women business owners?
Well, I thank you for your vision, Nicole. I think the Bow Collective is absolutely amazing. And I think that's the beauty of it. You managed to bring together a group of amazing, smart, talented, successful Black women so that we can share our stories and share our ideas and see where we can benefit from one another as we continue, to grow our businesses. And, there's room for all of us to be successful. There doesn't have to be competition. We're all here to win and work together. And I really think, it's our time. I've always supported women, period. But, my heart is near and dear with my Black sister business owners. And, it's time for people to, the world to see us respect us and recognize, the power that we have and what we bring to the table. So I'm certainly, honored to be a part of the Bow, and I've met some really amazing women. And like you said, it's all about collaboration, and I'm all here for it, and looking forward to, sharing, what Graham Tech has done and what our quals are and our past performance and how we can partner with each other. So I think this is really amazing. And just to walk into that room and see, you just feel it. And so, it's been a great journey. So I certainly look forward to what's ahead for the Boat Collective.
Thank you, sister. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying yes, and trusting me. I remember our early
Yeah.
conversations, and I just on Monday, I just totally felt vindicated. I'm like, I know that she gonna say, okay, Nick, okay, and
Yes.
you did. You
Well, I'm
knocked.
happy I made the right decision. So thank you again.
Oh no, you're awesome. I'll leave you with the last word. Tell our audience how we can stay in contact with you, and how we can support your business.
Sure. So you can go to our website. It's www.graham-tech.net. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn. We're also on Twitter. And yeah, tap into your network, and send people over our way if they, have any, if we have any positions available that you know of anyone who may qualify. So please visit us. And we're located in Largo. You can come on the office and visit me anytime as well.
I love it. Thank you, sister. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, Nick.
sharing today. Bye bye. And that concludes, what did I tell you? Another episode, a great sister, a great story, a great business story. I'm just so grateful that you guys keep on joining us every week. Share the Bow Knows business with your friends. These are some superheroes right in our midst. They're celebrities to me. They get out every day, they hire in our community, and they do us proud. So stay tuned for more small biz stories with the Bow Collective. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.